Hi there, this is STEAMCODE's Dancing Mouse. We're going to be learning how to put this together today. Before we do, let's see what it looks like after it's all put together. To make the dancing mouse, you will need the component parts from STEAMCODE in the bag. You will also need a small screwdriver, and it is helpful to have a pair of scissors. Also included with your kit, you should have a rectangular piece of clear plastic. First, open your bag. Inside, you should find another bag with wooden pieces, a battery box, a small bag with small and large screws, and also another small bag that has the pieces of the gearbox, the gears, and the motor. This is the bag that you need first. You can put all other parts aside. For the first step, you will need one long axle, one medium-sized axle, a small axle, 3 metal screws, the 3 gears, and both sides of the gearbox. Find the side of the gearbox that says STEAMCODE and flip it over. You will notice there's a small opening in the upper right-hand corner. Find the small axle and put it in that hole. Notice that there are 3 small gears, but one is smaller than the others. One side of the gear has a protrusion and the other side is smooth. With the side of the protrusion sticking up, place this small gear over the small axle. Next, look carefully at the other gears. One gear is smooth on one side and has a protrusion on the other, and the other gear has 2 protrusions, a bumpy side and a smooth side. This is the gear that you want to put onto the larger axle. Push the gear down until it's about halfway down the axle. Then with the smooth side pointing down, place this axle in the hole labeled F. Use the remaining axle and push it down through the remaining gear, again until the gear is about halfway down the axle. With the protrusion sticking up and the smooth side down, place this gear in the hole labeled S. Notice that when you turn any of the axles, all the gears should move. Find the other half of the gearbox, line up the holes, and slip it over the bottom half of the gearbox. Hold it in place and flip it over. You will notice there are 3 small holes. Use the screws to attach both sides of the gearbox together. Next, you will need to find the rectangular shaped bodyboard, the piece of plastic, 2 long metal screws, and 2 metal washers. The next step is pretty tricky, so if you have someone that can help you or lend an extra hand, that would be very helpful. You're going to be attaching the gearbox and the plastic onto the bodyboard in one step. The first step is to make a loop with your plastic. Bend the sides of plastic together so that the outermost holes line up. And insert a screw through each hole. Then push those holes through the bodyboard and then put the gearbox on top. Again, this is pretty tricky, so it's helpful to have a friend or a parent to help. Add the metal nut onto the end of the screw and then use the screwdriver to tighten it from the inside. Do the same thing on the other side. When you're done, it should look like this. Next, you will need to find the 2 rear support feet, 2 metal connectors, 6 small metal screws, 4 plastic nuts, and 2 metal nuts. Using your body board, attach the metal connectors to the body board. Find these 3 holes at the bottom. The 2 holes on the left, place the metal connector on top. Turn it over and pass a small screw through and use a plastic nut to tighten it. Do the same thing on the other side. Then use your screwdriver and hold on to the plastic nut and tighten them. Repeat the same procedure on the other side of the body board. This is how it should look when you're finished. Next, attach the rear support feet to the metal connectors. Line the holes up. Pass a metal screw through the top opening, and then use a metal nut to secure it on the other side. Tighten the screw with your screwdriver. Repeat the same procedure on the other side. Then attach the second screw to the bottom hole and tighten with the nut on the other side. Next, find the 2 front swing arms, the 2 plastic cranks, 4 screws, 4 metal nuts, 2 large nuts, and 2 large screws. Attach the large screws through the large opening in the swing arm and screw the nut on the other side. On the side that's smooth, attach the cranks. Line the crank up so that the second hole down is lined up with the opening on the swing arm. Push the screw through and attach it with the metal nut. Do the same thing with the bottom opening. Then use your screwdriver to tighten both of the screws. Repeat the same procedure with the other swing arm. Next, you will attach the swing arms to the mouse's body. Simply push the cranks onto the large axle, push them together. Next, find the battery box support frame, 2 metal screws and 2 metal nuts. Attach the battery box support frame to the mouse's body by lining up the holes. Inserting a metal screw, and attaching the nut to the back. Then tighten the screws with the screwdriver. Next, find the motor and the worm gear. Notice that the worm gear has two sides. One side has a small rectangular shaped piece, and the other side is smooth. The rectangular shaped piece should be pointed toward the motor. Push the worm gear onto the motor, but not all the way. There should be a small gap between the worm gear and the motor. Also, push up the contact points on the motor. Find the battery box and notice that on the ends of the battery box there's a small amount of wire exposed. I find that it's easier if you remove a little bit more of the wiring insulation so that more of the wire is exposed. You can do this by gently cutting through the insulation with a pair of scissors. You just want to cut through the insulation, not through the wire. So by twisting it with your fingers and pushing slightly with the scissors, you can cut through the insulation and then use your fingers to pull the insulation off. Do this for the red and the black wire. Next, attach the wires to the motor by passing the exposed wire through the contact points. Then bend the wire over and twist it together. Repeat this for the red wire. Next, find the foam adhesive that was included with your kit. Remove one side of the backing and press it onto the back of the battery box. Then remove the other side of the adhesive backing. Attach the battery box to the support frame. Then insert the motor, push it into the opening, and press gently until you hear a click. Now it's time to install the batteries, but before you do that, make sure the switch is up. Install the batteries. After you've installed the batteries, it's time to flip the switch and watch your mouse dance. Make sure you check out the user guide for some fun project ideas and ways to decorate your robot so that it looks like a real mouse or an imaginary mouse. Have fun with this project from STEAMCODE.